All right, lovely. Welcome to this session on thriving through the menopause. Like I said, there's some comprehensive handout material available, so you don't need to take notes. I've put that in the chat, or I can easily send that on to you. And we are recording this so that you can watch it again. And the first thing I want to say about the menopause is that in our society, it's almost treated like an illness, and that's because we experience so many symptoms. In many societies, there's not even a word for menopause, especially in more indigenous societies and societies that I suppose the feminine is more valued. Often women, they just naturally transition through the menopause. And so I believe that a lot of the reasons we do suffer from the menopause and from those symptoms so much is a lot to do with the way that we look at it, the way that we view it. So the first thing I want to say is I would like you to look at how you view the menopause. Do you sort of view it as a curse and an awful thing to get through and you wish it would stop? Or do you see it as just a natural transition? And in fact, many women shift their viewpoint so much that they see it as a release and a freedom from all that goes with being reproductive, and a lot of your energy being tied up in the function of being reproductive. So very much our attitude towards it can affect our experience, if you like. And so if you can embrace the menopause and think of it as the end of an era, but the beginning of a new era, it's almost like this is your chance. You're no longer creating new life, you're creating your life. And for many women, they start to be freed up from their responsibilities as mothers. Maybe their family are getting a bit older and growing up. And this is a time when quite often financially, some of the burden is easing off. And it really is, right, well, what do you want to do with your life then? And so if you can have that sort of attitude that this is a natural process, and the more I embrace it, the more I'll be able to flow through and flow with this process. Now, having said that, there's some very real symptoms. And some people breeze through it a lot more easily than others. Some people, it only lasts a short time, and other people, it seems to drag on for years. My experience, I hit the menopause quite young, and I think perhaps because I did a lot of yoga and meditation, I just did a lot of yoga. I did a lot of strong yoga, and the symptoms didn't last. The night sweats and the hot flushes and things didn't last too long. The tiredness, that deep fatigue, that dragging fatigue, yes. And the feeling of not quite feeling yourself for a while. It's almost like you go into your cocoon and you don't feel yourself. You know, our hormones are fundamental to how we feel. And then as you emerge out of that cocoon, there's such a freedom. I remember feeling like I got my body back, like I used to feel. I've got 4 children, and including twins. And, you know, I felt like my body used to feel before I had kids. I had more energy once I was through it. I really was happy to come out of that cocoon and spread my wings, if you like. But I know that's not everybody's experience. But I'm just putting that as a thought, something to ponder and consider. Now, from a yoga point of view, the menopause is a time where energy is shifting from our sacral chakra up into our throat chakra. So your sacral chakras are just like energy centers in the body, but they are associated with different aspects of our life. And your sacral chakra is very much about creating new life. It's about your creative expression. And one of those is in creating new life and being a mother, and that whole part of being feminine and reproductive. And there's a natural progression as we get older for that energy to move up and be expressed through our throat. And our throat is where we express our truth, often, in that energy moving up, especially because it's coming through our heart. We gain a confidence in expressing who we are. There's almost that shy younger woman that we were. Do you know what I mean? We're just, no, this is who I am, and the world better get used to it. There comes a confidence with advancing age if you allow this energy to shift. And some of the things we do in yoga, especially the deep breathing, keep that channel nice and open so that energy can naturally shift. And other things, anything you do to strengthen your throat, to strengthen your voice, will help that shift. So singing, humming, chanting, getting up and speaking your truth, speaking up for yourself, setting boundaries, speaking up for other people, following a cause, finding your voice is very much a part of this natural progression. So sometimes we don't realize, but something as simple as joining a choir can make quite a difference to the energy shift of the menopause and to how we experience that. I'm going to talk about doing things for yourself, but sometimes that can be part of finding more time in your life to do things that really nourish you, that you feel really good doing. So you could almost look upon this as a time, from a spiritual point of view, to start to step into fulfilling a higher purpose, so that you've brought up your family, they're mostly or on their way to being independent. Perhaps you can tail down the amount you're working. So what unique contribution are you going to make in the world next? It could be an exciting time, but we've got to embrace the change. And when we embrace that change, the energy seems to shift and flow more easily. So some of the things that you can do to help that energy flow and to keep, because some of that energy flowing from the sacral up into the throat can be blocked by energy that gets blocked in these centers through here. This is looking at it from a yoga, I suppose, a bit more spiritual point of view. And some of those blockages can be emotional. Quite often they're things that we haven't been able to express. Maybe we live in an environment or relationships or family where we can't express our truth or exactly express how we feel, or maybe there's some suppression of some deep-centered resentment and anger and that sort of thing. So starting to clear those sort of things. Sometimes menopause is the time where those issues come up. There might be issues that go back to childhood. There might be issues that go back to when you were a younger woman. And this seems to be the time where there's a sort of a reckoning. They come up for our healing, for our attention. And going in and doing that kind of work definitely helps to move through the menopause with grace. Okay, some practical things that can help. Things like skin brushing. I know you think, well, skin brushing, what's that got to do with anything? So using a loofah or a brush before you have a shower, just to brush the skin and keep the energy flowing, keeps your lymph flowing and helps to keep everything circulating. Things like having deep massage. Okay, a lot of energy blocks get deep into the lymph, deep into the muscles and the joints. So if you can have a deep massage quite regularly, it can really help. I don't know if you've ever noticed when you've had a massage, afterwards you feel quite spacey, sometimes you feel quite emotional, and that's because it's freeing up these blockages that's stopping that flow of energy. And the more you can get your energy to flow, the easier it is to transition through through this process and out into the other side of menopause, when you can really, you can fly. You know, you really feel like you've been through a bit of a challenge, a bit of a tunnel, and you're out the other side. You can use things that actually heal your energy. So you might have sessions like Reiki, energy healing. You might do something called emotional freedom tapping, and you can Google that and look up a guy called Nick Ortner, and he uses sort of tapping on meridian points to clear unconscious emotional blocks and to reprogram some of these conditionings, if you like, these beliefs and attitudes that don't serve us, that we have deep in our psyche that need healing. We can, one of the things that makes a big difference, and you probably won't like me for this one, turning your shower to cold at the end. And you're like, why would I do that? Try it. I know it takes some courage, and maybe the first time you'll be like, but after a while, what you will find is that it just so invigorates your energy, that you'll get to the stage where all year round you do that. So especially it really helps to calm the hormones down. It really helps to work with the hormones, because you probably notice that if you get too hot, it makes the hot flushes worse. It makes the night sweats worse. So just turning your shower to cold at the end really helps to stimulate the skin, to stimulate the flow of energy. It really keeps your immune system healthy and your lymph flowing, and it helps with just keeping those hormones in balance. You can use yoga breathing techniques, and I'm going to teach you some of those, and I'm going to direct you to my website where you can download some audio files or you can watch a video to help to learn those techniques and use them on a regular basis. And they're especially good for dealing with the fears and doubts and anxieties, and for dealing with stress. And I'm going to talk a lot about how stress really exacerbates the symptoms of menopause. The other thing about some of these techniques is they open your heart center. So they really sort of open what we'd say in yoga is your heart chakra, and that can make the whole process, it just makes it a lot easier. It makes emotionally, you are more in tune with people around you, and they feel more able to help you. If you like, you're open to receive love and support, which sometimes during the menopause we can almost feel like we feel very isolated, and we close down, and we don't feel as connected to those we were really close to, because we're all out of sorts hormonally. It's almost like going back to when we were a teenager and we were all over the place with our hormones and struggling with connection with other people. So when women, in many indigenous cultures, when women have been through the menopause, they are highly valued. And the reason they're highly valued is because these cultures value the enhanced sensitivity that these women have, the wisdom and the intuitive understanding that they have. And often the women are almost invited to be elders of the community, and their counsel is sought. Quite often they move into a position of reverence and are highly valued by that community. Now, I would say in our society, this is not the case. In our culture, we have an overemphasis on youth and beauty. In fact, we almost challenge the ideas of beauty. You know, we have to dye our hair so it looks youthful. We have to buy lots of products so we don't have any wrinkles. We have to look a certain way to be valued, to be noticed. And it's almost becomes the older woman, instead of gracefully aging and embracing that process and people seeing a beauty that shines whatever age you are, there is this idea that we disappear. we're no longer seen, because our best years are behind us, our reproductive years are behind us, and therefore our attractiveness is behind us. And this could not be further from the truth. And I think this is starting to change, which is a really positive thing. Sometimes there's a reluctance, consciously or unconsciously, to make the transition through menopause. And I think especially if you have any issues about whether you wanted children, whether you wanted more children, whether you did want children, didn't want children, it's a time where those sort of issues come up. And sometimes that can be really challenging. It can be a time where you're addressing, it might be that you realize you're not with the partner you want to be with, even though you seem to have signed up for a lifetime. And it's like, okay, what do I do about this? So it can be quite a challenging time when these issues come up. Sometimes we do think that we will lose our sexual attractiveness post-menopause, and it's just not true. It's just not true. In fact, I would say there's a freedom. There's a freedom, because you come to a stage where you don't really care so much about what other people think. And that attitude of getting in touch with the truth of who you are and just being who you are is extremely attractive. It doesn't matter how big, small, fat, thin, tall, whatever shape a person is. When a person is happy in their own skin and expressing who they are with joy, we cannot help but find that attractive. And I think a lot of this sort of, I'm past it, I'm old, I don't look like I'm supposed to, I need airbrushing, I need touching up, that sort of thing, it can really work against us. And so an acceptance of who you are and an allowing of that inner confidence to bubble up. There's also a freedom. You don't have to worry about getting pregnant anymore. So in many ways, you could find that you are more attractive, if you like. But one of the key things to thriving through the menopause is finding a balance between expressing our masculine side and our feminine side. So everybody, male or female, has natural feminine side and feminine energy, and a natural masculine side and masculine energy. And we all need to have a balance and express both of those. Ideally, women would express more feminine and not quite so much masculine, and men would express more masculine and not quite so much feminine. But not always. There's a continuum of what's normal and good and right for people, and you can have very feminine men who are really happy with that, and quite masculine women who are really happy with that. But it's about your own balance. And I think many of the symptoms of menopause come about, and I'm going to go into the hormones here, come about when we don't have that balance. So if I explain to you what I mean by expressing your masculine side, maybe that will help you to sort of understand a bit what I'm talking about here. So when you are expressing your masculine side, you are emotionally detached. So it tends to be expressing things without undue emotion, not expressing that emotion. The emotion may be there, but it's not expressed. Very much masculine is about producing a result. There's a narrowing of focus, so a concentration to producing a result. If you think of back to caveman, cavewoman time, it's zeroing in on the prey because you want to feed your family, or you're protecting your family, so that focus narrows. It's competitive, and there's a requirement to be independent and strong. Okay, so these you can probably see within yourself. There's probably times when you have to produce a result, especially at work. You often have deadlines and you need to front up to something. There are times when you might be feeling emotional, but it's not appropriate to express that emotion. You have to step into being a little bit more detached. And definitely in a workplace, often there's competition. You have to make sure you're producing a result to keep your job, to feed your family. These are all ways in which we're expressing our masculine. That drive, that competitive drive is often, we set a goal and we go for it. That single focus is what gets results. A lot of single mums, if they don't have a partner who's helping to parent the children, will have to express the qualities, the feminine qualities of being a mother and the masculine qualities of being a father. And many single mums find those masculine qualities, especially with their sons, quite difficult. And it's interesting that for a woman to step into the masculine, into something that's typically masculine in its requirements, takes something like 8 times more energy than it does for a man to do something that's naturally masculine. And I suspect it flips the other way with the feminine. I haven't read that, but it might be why that some things we just find we can do them. Of course we can do them, but they will take more toll on our energy. They're not as natural to us. So expressing your feminine side is whenever you are nurturing, whenever you are connecting to others, in relating to others. The masculine is to compete, the feminine is cooperate, to come together and work together toward the greater good or the solution. The feminine is very much about expressing your emotions. That's how we connect with each other. That's how the energy flows between people. The feminine is to be open and receptive. The masculine, it's interesting, many people don't get this, and in our society, I believe it's often flipped around, but the feminine is to receive and the masculine is to give. So often in our society, women give, and they might even argue that men do a lot of receiving, but it flows. But in actual fact, men are frustrated because often all they want to do is give. A man defines himself by how happy he can make those he cares about. Can he provide for them? Can he protect them? And the woman's job, in a way, is to be open to receive that. But often, in my experience, we're rubbish at receiving. And if we do, we're all apologetic. We don't know how to receive. And if you're wondering whether that's you, what do you do when someone gives you a compliment? Do you just say thank you? Or do you go, no, and you brush it off, or you move it to somebody else? Or watch how a man takes a compliment and watch how a woman takes a compliment. It's quite an interesting observation. So the key to minimizing some of the negative effects in menopause is recognizing whether you have a balance in expressing the masculine and the feminine. Now, I'm just going to go a little sidetrack from that. We're going to come back to that. One of the things that makes menopausal symptoms worse, one of the key things, and I think this is why our culture, we really suffer, is stress. Stress blows the symptoms up so much. And quite a lot of us have stress that we don't even realize. We might not even think of ourselves as stressed. And that's because stress can be externally generated. So an example of that would be, stress from deadlines at work, stress that's in your external environment. If you're trying to work and there's a lot of noise, or it's too hot, or, that sort of stress. But most of our stress comes from internally, from our thoughts, from the pressure we put on ourselves, from the expectations, from the self-judgment and the self-criticism, from wanting things to go a certain way and they don't, they go another way, and we're not very good at flowing with that. Not liking change causes a lot of stress. So stress is not only what's going on around us, it's how we respond to what's going on around us. So two people in the same situation, one may experience stress and the other's quite happy. So it's our response to our world, if you like. So women, when we're feeling stressed, one of the things that brings it down beautifully and the fastest and the quickest is estrogen. So estrogen is one of the female hormones. So bring the estrogen levels up, stress levels in a woman go down. There's just that feeling, I feel okay again. So an increase in estrogen will reduce your stress. During the menopause, our ovaries stop producing estrogen and progesterone. The adrenal glands take over. So there's still estrogen and progesterone produced, but not nearly as much as when we were reproductively, when our body was reproductively able, if you like. And so the levels are lowered and compromised, especially if your adrenal glands are exhausted. And the adrenal glands get exhausted when stress is chronic. So it's not sudden stress. Oh, I've got a deadline or something's happened. It's not acute stress. It's chronic, everyday stress that's there long term. It might just be a level of anger or conflict or discord in your family, a work environment where there's low morale, or you've got a boss who's just not valuing people and not really on to what's going on. Illness, coping with pain or with ongoing problems. Any kind of problems in your relationships with those closest to you where there's an ongoing problem creates this just low level stress that after a while the adrenal glands, it's almost like stress. We are designed to, as soon as we are threatened, to go into fight, flight, or freeze. Okay, lots of adrenaline is pumped and our body gets ready. There's a tiger approaching, there's a threat coming. We're either going to run, going to fight, or sometimes we freeze. Sort of the rabbit in the headlights. Won't see me if I freeze. That's fine if there's a tiger approaching, but if you've got tigers in your mind all day, every day, or you've got tigers every day, the adrenal glands get exhausted. And then they're not able to produce enough estrogen, which just makes it so much worse. So this is where you get an increase in the night sweats, an increase in the fatigue of menopause. You get more hot flushes. You might even want to look at your own symptoms and think, did I have as many symptoms on holiday? When I did that retreat, my symptoms died down. When the stress eased off, was it better? See if you can make some sort of correlation with those events in your life. When the other thing that, let's say whenever we express our masculine side, so we're results focused, we're narrow focused, we're not expressing emotion, it's competitive, and we're bringing out that masculine side of our nature. This increases our testosterone levels and reduces our estrogen levels. So if you're in a work environment where you're having to step into your masculine all of the time, and it's a stressful environment and there's pressure to produce results, and then when you get home, there's pressure to produce results in terms of a meal and homework, and this person needs you and that person needs you, and by the end of the day, you feel like you're just wrung out with people who needed you. This means that you've spent most of your day expressing your masculine side. You haven't received as a female to address the feminine side. Your testosterone levels are quite high and your estrogen levels have dropped. And this will exacerbate the symptoms of menopause. When you get to express your feminine side, this naturally increases your estrogen. And this is the magic. So when you start to understand what increases my estrogen, it can help you manage the menopause symptoms so much better. So for example, some of the things that help to raise your estrogen is being able to express your emotions. So coming home and having somebody just hear about how you feel about your day for 10 minutes, no interruptions, no problem solving, just listening. I just need to blah. And you know that you'll have girlfriends, woman to woman contact. We don't get bothered about someone just offloading and just and getting it out. We intuitively know that women need to do that, and it doesn't negatively affect the receiver, the person listening. We just hold a space for her to do that. Men don't tend to get that. Men are wired differently to women. Men are wired to solve problems. So if you come home and express how you feel about your day, a close man in your life is he's looking for the problem. What's the problem? How can I solve the problem? How can I solve the problem? There's a problem here. I want to help her. I want to make her happy. I want to solve her problems for her. Now, you probably know that the worst thing he can do is try to solve your problems for you, because you haven't got a problem. You're just offloading. And this can cause much conflict between men and women. And interestingly enough, he is trying to reduce his stress levels by men's stress levels go down when they increase their testosterone. Ours go up if we increase our testosterone. So by him going into problem solving, expressing his masculine, he's trying to bring the stress levels down in a masculine way, not realizing that he's forcing you into problem solving mode, into your masculine, raising your testosterone and lowering your estrogen. And you will just get angry with him and snap at him and, oh, I don't know why I bother, and storm off, break the connection. He goes, I was just trying to help. And so sometimes all that's required, if you do have someone that you can just emotionally express at the end of quite a masculine day, if you've had to step into that, if you can just, if it's a woman, she will intuitively just know how to hold a space for you. If it's a man, what you might have to say to him is, the problem that needs solving is my stress levels need to come down. The best thing you can do is just listen. All it's required for you to solve the problem, please just listen. That's it. And you'll go, but that's too easy. Yeah, that's all I need. That's what I need from you to solve the problem. I need you to listen. And you know what? If you listen to me without interrupting and just let me offload for 10 minutes, you'll be amazed who I'll be after that. Because then what will happen is you'll step into your feminine. He'll go, ooh, I quite like that. Do you see how the dynamic works? So that's one way of increasing your estrogen, expressing your emotion. It might be ringing a girlfriend. It might be writing. It might be whatever way. It might be singing and dancing. It might be screaming and shouting. But expressing emotion will increase your estrogen levels and take you from that expressing your masculine into being able to express your feminine. Some other ways is caring. And this is not results producing caring. It might be making a beautiful, nourishing meal for your family in a relaxed way with the music on and someone helping and a glass of wine. Do you see the difference between having to get dinner on the table for 6 because someone's got to be here and someone's got to be there and someone's got to be there? Completely different. One produces more estrogen, the other one produces more testosterone. It might be one of the ways that really increases estrogen for women is connecting with nature. Just going and sitting in the garden with a cup of tea, just watching the birds, just being. The feminine is to be, the masculine is to do. So just taking time to just be in your garden, just go for a walk in the woods, just go for a walk out in nature and just look at the trees and look at the flowers and watch the birds. These really increase your estrogen, and they nourish something deeply feminine within all of us, but especially women, especially if our hormone levels are out of balance, and especially in the menopause. And this is why just bringing into your life, it might be that you say, look, when I get home from work, the first half an hour is mine and I'm going for a walk. Just doing that activity might be enough to just bring the symptoms right down, to bring your coping mechanisms right up. So they don't have to be radical changes. It's just understanding what's happening to your hormones and what you can do about it. The other hormone that I need to talk about is oxytocin. Now, oxytocin is what's called the bonding hormone. Now, oxytocin, whenever oxytocin levels rise in your body, in a female body, it produces more estrogen. Okay, so oxytocin reduces stress in women. Fantastic for reducing stress in women. And this is why if we know somebody is upset, we touch them. We just touch them, just in a sometimes it's just holding a hand or patting an arm. It's intuitive, because any kind of affectionate, caring, non-sexual touch increases oxytocin. So this is why a hug increases your oxytocin, increases your estrogen. For women especially, it reduces stress. For men, being asked to hug when they don't want to hug will actually increase their stress. For women, it's the other way around. Connecting with animals, stroking animals, hugging your dog, caressing your cat, sitting out in the garden with your cat and a cup of tea, walking your dog in the fresh air and connecting, not talking about problems, no problem solving, day over, just relaxing, sitting in the sunshine. These things are really increasing your oxytocin. Having loving family time with children. Small children are brilliant for increasing our oxytocin. Yoga, meditation, dancing, singing, tai chi, qigong, all of these increase our oxytocin. Anything that means you connect with your body, anything, massage will increase your oxytocin. Anything where you connect in a positive way to your physicalness. So good sex, good intimate sex with someone who cares, not testosterone-driven results-producing sex, but loving, nurturing, caring connection is what produces oxytocin. It's the bonding hormone. So menstruating women need more oxytocin, especially around ovulation. Now, if you're no longer menstruating, or you're sort of transitioning from menstruating to no longer menstruating, so if you're menopausal, your body doesn't have that menstrual cycle anymore, but what happens is your body actually attunes to the cycles of the moon. And you're like, eh? Yeah, it's fascinating if you read about this. And when I start talking, you might think, yeah, actually that happens to me. If you get a whole lot of women together and look at their menstrual cycles and look at the moon, they'll all come into alignment with the moon. But when you think about it, the moon has the power to move all of the water on our planet in terms of the tides. Our planet is 70% water. Our bodies are 70% water. So to think that the moon wouldn't be having an effect on things that flow in our body, it's a bit hard to think, no, we're not affected. We're part of the whole flow of the planet. We're part, especially women, we're part of the flow. That is feminine, is to flow. So what happens is ovulation becomes the same in a menopausal woman as the full moon. So women need more oxytocin around the full moon. 2 days before, the day of the full moon, and 2 days after. So there's a 5-day window in that lunar cycle, if you like, where women especially need oxytocin. And if they're in an intimate relationship with a man, if he can give her oxytocin at that time, spend loving, intimate, we time together, pair bond at that time, it doesn't matter what he does for the rest of the cycle, he will strengthen their relationship and she will feel deeply appreciative of him. If he doesn't, if he goes off for a weekend with the boys during the full moon, 5 days, they will have problems. There'll be a conflict between them for the rest of that cycle. It's just fundamental. So sometimes just telling him around the full moon, you need to be romantic, we need to be intimate, and I want lots of touching and hugs and walking in nature, and and you do that and you'll be really happy with the results. If you're not with someone, that is when you need to do the things that increase oxytocin. So you need to connect. So it might not be connecting with an intimate partner, but it might be connecting with your pets. It might be connecting with nature. It's feeling connected. It might be that you want to watch certain films at that time. You want to dance to certain music. You want to put ABBA on and dance around the lounge. Whatever it takes to connect and feel feminine at that time. So that's around the full moon. When we're going so if you like, the full moon is seen as ovulation and the new moon is after menstruation, if you had a menstrual cycle. So what happens is around the full moon, we need more oxytocin, and that we time, that connecting with a connection is needed for our hormonal health. Between the full moon and the new moon is when we need, so that would be after menstruation, if we were menstruating, we need more progesterone. Okay, this is another one of the female hormones. And we get more progesterone by having time to ourselves, by having me time, by doing the things that particularly nourish me. And that'll be different for everybody. Some people will be shopping, some people definitely won't be shopping. Some people will be time in nature, other people it won't be. Some people it's a hot bath, other people it's a good book. It doesn't matter. It's whatever works for you, but it's time alone. It's time where you're not needed by anybody else. It can be time, socially bonding time with other women. So it might be the time that you either need time to yourself or time with your girlfriends. So that's between the full moon and the new moon. You probably won't want to be as connected to your partner if you have a partner. If we don't get enough of this me time in that window between the full moon and the new moon, what happens is we don't produce enough progesterone, and we become what's called estrogen dominant. Now, the symptoms of being estrogen dominant are being very needy, be very emotionally shaky, losing our confidence, physical exhaustion, feeling overwhelmed. So this is when there's too much estrogen compared to the progesterone. And what we need then is time out, time to nourish ourselves. So around the full moon, when we needed the oxytocin, for a lot of people feel quite emotional around the full moon anyway. A lot of people don't sleep very well around the full moon. It's often a time where emotional issues come up for our attention. So oxytocin, lots of connecting around the full moon will help. But once we move between the full moon and the new moon, no, we need to be with ourselves. Okay, whatever came up at the full moon, we're working through the problems and working out what we're going to do about it at the new moon, because the new moon is about new starts, fresh starts, and instigating something new, some change. If we have too much testosterone in this time between the full moon and the new moon, it really depresses our progesterone, because the progesterone gets converted to testosterone. So if you, between the full moon and the new moon, if you've got a lot of pressure at work, if you've got you've got to produce a lot of results, you've got to organize something at home, you've got to do something for a charity, you've got to produce. You've got to give, and be there for everybody. This will cause that estrogen dominance to be even worse, because it's dropping your progesterone levels. And what will happen is you'll just want to detach and pull away from intimate connections with all people. You'll just want the world go away. And this is almost an extreme, I need me time and I need it now. And you'll get quite stringent about it. And it's like a energy, because you've got desperate. You'll often feel very isolated, like you're not being supported, like you're all things to everybody and people are taking advantage and you're feeling overwhelmed. You'll be weepy. So what was needed to counteract all of that is me time. So even if you've got deadlines at work, even if you've got to be quite expressing your male side during the day. When you get home, when you have some time off, you just need to negotiate some me time. I'm just going to go and have a bath and read my book. I'm going to take the dog out tonight. I just like to be in my own space for a bit. Just negotiate, or even on your diary or your calendar, look at the bit between the full moon and the new moon and put in some diary options for me time. And this will increase your progesterone and will really help with the menopausal symptoms. So from the new moon, so we're now at the new moon, back to the full moon, this is the time when we can express our masculine without much detriment to our health. It's the time where our best performance at work. If you were giving a presentation, make it between the new moon and the full moon. It's a time of instigating change. We're fired up for action, where we can be masculine without any negative health benefits. We're probably not needing our partner as much, not needing the intimate connections with people, because we're feeling strong and independent. And you may even notice, do you know, I feel all of these things in a month, but I never realized there was any kind of pattern. So if you can see the pattern and work with it and build a lifestyle around supporting that pattern, you will naturally bring those menopausal symptoms under control. And I know people who, for example, sometimes women in relationships, the masculine and feminine roles have reversed, and some women are like the men in relationships and their husbands are like the women in relationships, in traditional relationships. And sometimes that can make menopausal symptoms so much worse, because they're just testosterone all the time. They're having to make all the decisions. They feel like their husband or partner or boyfriend is a child. They feel like they've got a teenager in the house. Oh, why can't you just grow up and step up? Sometimes it can just take a couple of little things in their life that make them feel a bit girly, make them feel a bit more feminine, feel nourished, and suddenly all those menopausal symptoms, all those night sweats, all those hot flushes just calm right down. I've seen it happen. It's quite magic. So if you think of the full moon is we time, you need to bond. Whether it's with your partner, with nature, you need to have a connection, a bond. The new moon is me time. So you need me time, or sometimes time with girlfriends can work in there as well. More progesterone, not so much bonding with your partner. You don't really need his testosterone coming in there. And then the full moon is where you can be more masculine, more results driven, if you like. So I'm hoping that I know when I read this stuff, a lot of this came from, if you want to read, John Gray's book. Now, John Gray, 25 years ago, wrote Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And if you're like me, you probably read it 25 years ago. He's written a book, I think it was reasonably recently, Beyond Mars and Venus, where he gets much more into the hormonal way that this works. And the book gets quite complex in places, but a lot of this material is me taking that information and condensing it so that it's quite practical. So when you recognize that you need to express your feelings, and you can do that with someone who is non-judgmental and listens to understand, not to solve a problem. And just a heads up on that, if you're trying to sort of teach your partner to do that, when he does it, make a huge fuss. Really appreciate him incredibly, because that will increase his testosterone. Men's testosterone levels go up when they're appreciated. They love being, you cannot appreciate men enough, and it reduces their stress. So if you really appreciate, oh, thanks for listening, I really needed that. I know it's hard for you. I know you wanted to step in and solve my problems, and I really appreciate that you didn't. And he'll go, that worked. That was easy. I didn't have to solve any problem. All I had to do was sit there and listen. Huh? It seems too easy, but just keep on reinforcing that. And it doesn't have to be an intimate partner. I have a son who looks at me every now and then and goes, Mum, what is it? What's up? And I can just blur. And he, he's only 21, but he's somehow learned, and I suspect I've got his girlfriend to thank for that. Sometimes Mum just needs to offload. And he just goes, yeah. And he doesn't try and solve it. And then at the end, he might go, so do you need help with that? And I go, no. So you just needed to offload? Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. It's so easy. Taking me time, and that is really important, and a lot of women are rubbish at that, and we are so giving and being there for everyone, and we're trying to work, and we're trying to run a family, and we're trying to do and juggle all these things that many women in past times weren't juggling as much. We feel like we're not succeeding in any of these arenas because there's too many of them. Even despite all of those pressures, me time with your girlfriends, to connect is really important. Just a couple of things, quite practical things before I go on and talk a bit more about some yoga breathing. Just to note that hot flushes and night sweats are exacerbated by hot weather, by exercising when it's too hot or the room's too hot, and you'll know this, you'll be the one standing by the window. I always know in my yoga classes, so can I open the window? Yeah, and they'll be standing near the window. So if you were planning your exercising, go out early in the morning or go later at night. Avoid the heat. If you're going on holiday and you've got quite bad night sweats or hot flushes, perhaps don't go to the really hot places, or avoid the hottest part of the day, so you can sort of manage that. Smoking, alcohol and caffeine make the symptoms far worse. So obviously, if giving up smoking is part of your plan anyway, that's a good health move. Reducing your alcohol. I know sometimes alcohol feels like it helps with the menopause symptoms, but it's very short term. Yes, it relaxes you. Yes, you can forget about them. Yes, you can sort of be nice and girly and express your feminine, but you got to get a balance there, because it will over time exacerbate those symptoms. And the same with caffeine. Caffeine and sugar. So eating a lot of spicy or sugary foods is the same. It just causes the hormone levels to go like this, and then your blood sugar levels are going like this, and then your mood and your hormones and your insulin are going like this. and you wind up on an emotional roller coaster with your energy levels just flattening out. So if you can transition to non-caffeine but still nice treats for drinks, that would be ideal. And caffeine and sugar, kind of, I know there are times of the month when you just want a sugar hit, and it is hormonal. And when people are menstruating, you know, girls premenstrual, they're looking for sugar. And it is partly because of what's going on in their body. And I know with my daughter, dark chocolate. Dark chocolate has the caffeine, it has the sugar, it's just a bit more slowly absorbed. So in terms of its effect on the hormone levels and your energy levels, it's kinder. But sometimes, you know, you could eat all the carrots and celery and lettuce you like, but if you're looking for chocolate, for goodness sake, have some chocolate, just don't eat the whole bar or buy a smaller bar. Do you see what I mean? So it's working with a balance in that way, but do recognize that spicy foods, going out and drinking a lot of alcohol and having curry is not the best idea for hot flushes and menopausal night sweats. Tight clothing is the other thing. The energy, your body needs to be a bit free. You're already in this cocoon waiting to emerge. You don't want more tightness. Carrying excess weight can also exacerbate the symptoms. Unfortunately, what tends to happen during the menopause, and I noticed this as well, I've had read about it, is you do tend to retain fluid. So a lot of women get really down because I've put on weight. And often it's not so much they've put on body fat, although there will be a little bit of adjustment in that with the hormonal changes. It's not so much that you put on body fat, is that your body changes its shape. And you can, you know, you can still work with that. You may lose your waist a bit, but you can wear things that still give you that shape. And once you're through the menopause, to be honest, your metabolism seems to settle down and the weight shifts. Maybe it's because you have more energy and you are more active and you're happier to go walking. I don't know, but I know for me, there was a couple of years there where I knew I felt puffy and I looked a bit puffy, and I didn't like it much. I didn't feel like myself. But and when you are retaining fluid, the best thing you can do actually is to reduce your salt a bit and drink lots. Hydrate, lots of fluid, lots of regular fluid during the day will really help your body not to hold on to the fluid. But it's also some of the effects that are happening with your kidneys and are naturally happening with those hormones. But do rest assured, you think, I've put on all this weight. You haven't. It's just your body adjusting. And if you can work your way through that and not be too tough on yourself, you will find when you start to come out of the menopause that it just falls away, especially if you're feeling good about yourself, okay? Especially if you can do the things that are really nourishing and nurturing for yourself, because then you're self-caring, you're self-loving, and so you're keeping that very positive relationship with yourself right through the transition, if you like. Stress and anxiety, okay, really exacerbate the symptoms. So when they're excessive and you wind up awake in the night a lot, because part of the menopausal symptoms can be insomnia. It does affect your sleep cycles. And then you get that sort of chronic fatigue and some dehydration, all contribute to a reduction in your immune function and your overall body health. So, and that leads to feelings of not being able to cope emotionally and mentally. So a lot of these things, understanding some of the things that can help you, even if you're not sleeping the full number of hours, that the sleep you are getting is really good sleep. So things like, you know, no stimulating activity, no computers or anything, have an hour before you go to bed where you are calming down. It just helps the melatonin levels to rise and the cortisol levels to drop, so that you will fall asleep more easily and fall into a deeper sleep. And then sleeping in a really dark room where the temperature is, if anything, a little coolish, especially if you get the night sweats. No light sources at all. You know, phone a good at least couple of meters away, if not in another room, charging if it's charging, and nice and dark. And then when you first get up in the morning, to increase the cortisol levels and reduce the melatonin levels so that you feel more awake and alive in the morning, if you can get up as soon as you wake up, if you can open the curtains or go outside, the sooner you can be exposed to natural light that works on your pineal gland and helps with these cycles that have been interrupted by the menopausal symptoms. And just, you know, open the window if it's not too cold, open the curtains, get that natural light coming into your body. Drink a big glass of water first thing, and I'm going to give you a couple of breathing things to do, just standing while you're opening the curtains, that will just kickstart your energy and start your day in the right way. So sort of recognizing, you know, as I'm going to sleep, I'm calming down. And when I first wake up in the morning, I'm getting up and I'm doing these things that will get my cortisol levels higher, and I'll feel more energized rather than waking up and feeling like someone's hit you over the head and you haven't even been asleep. You're more tired than when you went to bed. If you can I'm going to give you a couple of exercises in a moment that will really help. So on your handout, which you can download, there are a whole list of why yoga breathing helps to balance your mind, body, and emotions. Quite an extensive list, from releasing tension to connecting with the peace that's deep within you. It's yoga breathing, and especially if you start to get into some sort of meditation or contemplative practice. So it might be that you just have 10 minutes sitting with a cup of tea at the end of the day. It might be that you want to do some meditation when you first wake up in the morning, and you either just sit up in bed with your curtains open, or if there's someone else there who's still sleeping, you go and find a chair in another room and you just have some time where you practice some of this deep yogic breathing and you calm your mind and you go into this peaceful place, so that you're starting your day with me time, and you're starting your day from a place of peace and calm and strength, because that's where this breathing takes us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something for about 10 minutes now that's quite practical. Don't worry, we're not doing any yoga, and you don't have to be a pretzel or anything like that. This is something you could do sitting or standing, and it's purely and simply designed to open your heart, which will help the feminine qualities. It opens you up to receiving. It's designed to energize you so that you're breathing deep into your lungs, because most of the oxygen exchange happens right down here in your lungs, about 80% of it. And when we're feeling stressed and uptight, we breathe up here, and it's like our whole body is depleted of oxygen. And that contributes hugely to the tiredness. So if you can learn to breathe deeper into your belly, not only does it boost your confidence and help you to feel strong and calm, but it also oxygenates your whole body, and therefore will give you more energy and help you through that real energy fatigue that the menopause can bring on. So I'm just going to show you 1, 2, 3, 4 things. Maybe I'll show you a posture, one yoga posture. All you got to do is lie on your tummy. It's not hard. That you could do if you were feeling emotionally wrought out, if you were feeling emotionally overwhelmed, or you needed to shift some strong emotion. You just want to scream or shout, or you're really angry. I'll show you the crocodile. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you just what you might do when you first wake up in the morning. So I'll just get where you can see me. So I've just got out of bed and I've opened my curtains and I'm standing out looking at the day. And all I do is I come up on my toes and I look at a point that's not moving and I just stretch. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling my ribs right up out of my hips. I just hold this for a moment, strengthening my ankles. And then I lower my heels. I bring my arms and shoulders down, but notice I haven't collapsed in the middle. So right through my whole torso here is lovely and open. And my spine, this is actually your natural posture. If you just loosen your knees a bit, that is your ideal posture. You'll feel confident and you'll feel strong. There's a video on my website, if you look on the end of your handout, where we go through this in more detail. Then what you do is you just tuck your 3 fingers under your thumb, pointing your index finger. It's called a mudra in yoga. And this says, I am the creator of my own destiny. So it's quite a powerful thing to do. And then all you do is you cross, breathe in, and breathe out. And then you cross a different hand in front. Really big opening. So you could do this sitting down, you can do this standing up. And what we're doing is we're breathing deep into our lungs and we're opening the chest and the heart. And just 4 or 5 of these will energize your body. And it'll start the day from such a good place. Lovely. And then the next thing you could do, and you could do this beginning of the day, end of the day, you just bend your knees and you breathe out what you don't need. And you breathe in what you need. So you breathe out what you don't need. Fatigue, you breathe in the energy. You breathe out all the emotional angst. You breathe in love and trust, peace and calm. And you just do as many of those as you need to. And then the last one I'm going to show you actually works on balancing your hormones. So you start with your hands in a praying hands position like this. And you take one hand up toward the ceiling, one down, and you stretch. And then you bend your knees slightly, you bring your hands back to a praying hands position. So you breathe out, breathe in, and breathe out. Breathe in, and breathe out. And this balances your hormones. It works with the pituitary gland. So just starting your day doing those would make quite a difference. And then the other, I'll just show you the crocodile, which is the one if you were feeling emotional and you want to come back to feeling balanced. And you can teach this to anyone in your family. You lie on the floor, make sure you can see me, and you have one hand on top of the other, forehead on your hands, feet apart, your heels in and your toes out. And you just breathe. And what the crocodile will do, the crocodile is a posture that brings you back to emotional and mental balance. So it will just bring you back to feeling okay, no matter what's going on. So it's something that's used after trauma. It's used in war zones. It's that powerful for just centering you back in your heart, connecting to an understanding about what's going on and just bringing you back to balance. So those are some very simple things you can use. And now what I want to do is just teach you just to breathe a bit deeply into your tummy and just show you some of this deep yogic breathing. So if you want to do it with me, just sitting up reasonably straight, closing your eyes, and just notice your body breathing. And you may find that you're breathing up in the top of your chest. Now, just keeping a gentle focus on your breath, I want you to imagine that each time you breathe in, you're taking the breath a little deeper. So it's as if you're opening a channel right down through the center of you, between your chest and between your spine, so deep inside. Just breathing through any tension you find, just accepting that tension is there. So breathe down through the sort of solar plexus area, just gradually taking the breath right down into your tummy. And then place your hands gently on your tummy. And as you breathe in, breathe into your hands. As you breathe out, feel your hands pull back towards your spine. And just find your own timing. Now with your mind, just watch your breath. Just a gentle focus. So if your mind is distracted, doesn't matter, but as soon as you notice, just come back to your breath. Until you can feel your mind coming down, your whole body starting to relax, and just a feeling of peace and calm. There's a stillness to this practice. And you just breathe like this until you feel fine. And then you can just open your eyes. And if you practice deep yogic breathing like this often enough, it can get to the stage where as soon as you notice that you're getting stressed, that your mind is wearing, that you're feeling overwhelmed and overloaded, I just go, Teresa, breathe. And I noticed that when I was stressed, I was breathing up here and I was all tight. And I just take my breath down into my belly. I breathe into my hands. And within a few breaths, I can completely come back to being calm and centered again, reducing my stress levels, keeping my estrogen levels high, keeping the oxytocin high. And so that is the basis of breathing that I would teach you to cope with anxiety, with fears, with doubts, with anything in your mind that's becoming too much. So it might be that you just decide you're just going to practice that breathing sitting up in bed for 10 minutes every morning or every night before you go to bed, or in the middle of the day at work. You're just going to have a little bit of time, 10 minutes me time. And just bring those anxiety levels, bring those stress levels back to feeling peaceful and calm, strong and clear. It is extremely powerful. And the more you practice it, the better you will become at using it in more stressful situations, if you like. Lovely. Now that's all from me today. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pause the recording for a moment, and then we'll have an opportunity for some questions. If you've got some questions, if you're happy, or if you want to put them in the chat, that would be fine. So if you have a question, just unmute your microphone and fire away, or pop the question in the chat, or even if you just got a comment to make, anything, that would be lovely. From Emma. Okay, we've got a few. Thank you for that, Teresa. One question: what's your top tip for managing the day and end of day work-life balance now that we're all working from home? Okay, definitely. So working from home, you've still got to almost put into your structure me time. It's a bit more difficult when we're sort of concentrated at home, but it might be that you negotiate with the people around you, if there is anybody, you know, this is, or it might be that you decide to go and do your exercise or your walk on your own, or you might negotiate time in the bath, or you might just go and find somewhere in a garden or somewhere in your house where you can still have that time. So it is harder, but you still can structure into your day. You know, you might do some of the meditation and the heart opening breathing exercises in the morning. You might have a half an hour where you go for a walk or something on your own. If it's difficult with the people around you to do things on your own, you just have to negotiate, especially if it's that time between the full moon and the new moon, when you really need that time. And connecting, remember, you can connect online with girlfriends. You know, if there's not anybody that you can kind of emotionally offload or just be heard at home, get online, talk to someone on the phone. There's as women, we naturally often do this for each other, and we probably didn't even know that we did. It's just something we do. It's why men sort of look at groups of women and wonder how they operate, and we know exactly how we operate and why we're operating like that. I've learned so much. Grounding, walk on the grass, first thing helpful, definitely. So grounding your energy is really important for your health and will help with the menopause. And it's something perhaps I didn't mention. It's definitely something that yoga does. So grounding just means in touch with the earth's energy. So if you get this time of year, get your feet outside on the bare ground, on the grass in your garden, that will ground your energy. Otherwise, just imagining that you're breathing in and out through your feet will ground your energy. Walking, taking your shoes and socks off when you're by the river or by the beach grounds your energy. Anything that really puts you back in contact with nature. Grounding is important. It helps with your stress management immensely. When especially if you have a job that's very cerebral, a job that's in your head all day, you need to do something to get into your body and to connect with nature, to remember those aspects of yourself. Lovely, lovely. Thank you, Teresa. Really enjoyed. Good. Definitely be using the breathing. Yeah, the breathing. It's the connection between the mind and the breath. I think we're only really starting to understand. Basically, if you think about when your mind is really stressed and worrying and there's a lot of adrenaline, we breathe up here tight and constricted. And I mean, an anxiety attack is an exacerbation of that, isn't it? Whereas if you watch a small child or a baby, you watch them when they're really relaxed, you watch them when they're asleep, you watch how they breathe into their belly. And as they breathe in, their tummy goes up, and as they breathe out, their tummy goes down. And if you have trouble getting to sleep, do this. And you can do something called equal ratio breathing. If you have trouble getting to sleep, where you breathe into the same count that you breathe out. So if you breathe into your tummy for a count of 4, you breathe out for a count of 4. And it won't take very many of these cycles before you're gone. And it's a beautiful way to go to sleep. The other thing I perhaps didn't stress enough is something that will really increase your oxytocin is doing a deep relaxation. So there's one on my website called a healing white light relaxation, 20 minutes, where I take you off right through the body, filling your body with healing and with light, a visualization. But anything that, if music transports you to a deeply relaxed space, listen to music. If a deep relaxation can do that, it helps if someone else is guiding you. It's quite difficult to do a deep relaxation on your own, but it might be that when you get home, you just lie on your bed for 20 minutes and listen to a deep relaxation. You can get them on YouTube. I have several if you want some of those, and they just really reduce your stress levels. They'll increase your estrogen and your oxytocin levels and just help with those menopausal symptoms. So that's wonderful. Many thanks, Teresa. Oh, lovely. I use all the things that you've taught us. And I have found that the downward dog helps in anything that shifts the energy up. Yeah, Paula, definitely. So any yoga, I mean, I've not gone into yoga today. There are some specific yoga postures that are really good for the menopause. And if you are someone who does yoga, postures like the bridge really helps with the menopause. The downward dog, or any posture where you're upside down, so coming down into a forward bend, or the downward dog, moves that energy naturally from the sacral chakra up to the throat and keeps the energy moving upward from the lower centers to the higher. And that will just keep the flow going in your body. It keeps your vitality high and it keeps that flow going, so energy is not getting blocked. And there's that natural progression of energy that's supposed to be happening in the menopause. That's part of the butterfly coming out of the cocoon, if you like. I could spend a whole nother session going into more detail in terms of yoga for the menopause, but if you're upside down, so you're forward bending, or you're in a downward dog, or if you're lifting through the pelvis like you do in the bridge, they're all going to help shift that energy. Wonderful. Right. Has anybody got any more questions? I mean, what you can always do, if you have specific questions, on the end of that handout is my email address. Just email me and I can always answer those in person. Oh, something about suggestions for waking up in the night and getting back to sleep. Okay, yeah, the crocodile. So that posture I showed you is not only good for going, for releasing any emotions, but it's really good for helping you to go back to sleep or to get off to sleep. Now, if you've got quite a firm mattress, you can do the crocodile in bed. And then as you feel yourself getting really sleepy, if you naturally sleep on your side or your back, you could just roll over. Or if you're happy sleeping on your front, just stay in the crocodile. But combining the crocodile with that equal ratio breathing. So you're in the crocodile and you're breathing into the same count that you're breathing out. And you're feeling like you're really releasing through the solar plexus. If you do that, you will be so calm that you'll drift back off to sleep. And even if you don't, you'll be getting a lot of the benefits that comes from, it's to do with your vagus nerve. When we deeply relax, a lot of the benefits that you would be getting anyway, and it will be helping to just really calm down those hormones. But quite often it's our mind that wakes us up. So I find, to help get a good night's sleep, if you can have some sort of practice that puts the day to bed. So it might be, I do what's called a, sorry, the sun's in my eyes. I do what's called a gratitude practice. And that's at the end of the day, just before I go to sleep. I say, Teresa, well done. I love you. And then I'll work out 5 things that I'm really grateful for that in the day. And the other day I had a really bad day, and one of them was that the day was over. You know, that was one of the 5. There's always 5 things to be grateful for. And it just closes the day. And if you've got an ongoing problem or an ongoing something, you almost have a little negotiation with yourself. And it's like, I know this is an ongoing problem. I will readdress this tomorrow. So you are actually going through a procedure where you're saying to your mind, enough, we've done our thinking for today, and now it's time to sleep. But also the reason I use gratitude is gratitude brings you into a heart space. And when you come into your heart energy and into gratitude, it's quite difficult to hold on to negative emotions. It sort of releases the day to be as it was, and there's a feeling of acceptance. So those are the things that can help. A lot of not being able to sleep is also dehydration. So if you're avoiding drinking too much just before you go to sleep, because you know it's going to wake you up in the night, make sure that before 4 o'clock you have had enough hydration during the day. So really, when you wake up in the morning and you go to the loo, your urine will be quite strong coloured. That's just part of the hormones of being asleep. By sort of 11 o'clock lunchtime, if you're drinking enough, it should be pale, completely pale, almost colourless. That means you're hydrated, you're fully hydrated, because thirst is not a good indicator of how much fluid you need. So if you're keeping hydrated, and it's regularly rather than large amounts every now and then, regularly through the day, you will find that will help you to sleep better, because quite often it's dehydration. And if you're getting a lot of night sweats, you need to have some water there so that you can hydrate and go back to sleep. Because sometimes it's the being dehydrated that stops you being able to get back to sleep, if that makes sense. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. Right, I'm going to end it there and say a very big thank you for the opportunity to have this session. And it's nice and sunny here in Chester. I presume you're all around and about. Why don't you go out for a nice walk somewhere lovely and go and have some me time? Maybe even a cup of tea in your garden if you've got a nice garden. But thank you very much, and namaste.